We're live from New Delhi. You're watching Diddy India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Nipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next 30 minutes. US President Trump lambasted Iran's Supreme Leader. Khamenei says he would bomb Iran if nuclear activities restart. Also Trump's plan to lift sanctions. US Supreme Court limits judges' power to halt Trump's birthright citizenship order. Trump calls it a monumental victory for the Constitution. Congo and Rwanda signed long-awaited peace deal in Washington, raising hopes to end years of conflict with roots in Rwanda's 1994 genocide. An Indian women's cricket team began crucial England tour with a 5-match T20 international series. And on to the details now. US President Donald Trump sharply criticized Iran's Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei, saying that he would consider bombing Iran again if Tehran is enriching uranium to worrisome levels, and also dropped plans to lift sanctions on Iran.
And I'm putting out a little statement. I'm going to respond to the Ayatollah's statement yesterday that we won the war. Oh, God, we won the war. And I said, look, you're a man of great faith, a man who's highly respected in his country. You have to tell the truth. You got beat to hell. And Israel was beat up too. They were both beat up.
Trump reacted sternly to Khamenei's first remarks after a 12-day conflict with Israel that ended when the United States launched bombing raids last weekend against Iranian nuclear sites. Trump said at a White House news conference that he did not rule out attacking Iran again when asked about the possibility of new bombing of Iranian nuclear sites if deemed necessary at some point. Well, US President Donald Trump also said that Iran wants to return to negotiations on its nuclear program a week after its main uranium enrichment facility and other sites were hit with devastating US airstrikes.
So Iran wants to meet. As you know, their sites were obliterated. They're very evil nuclear sites. They were, now has been proven. We had some fake news for a little while.
Well, Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi condemned the disrespectful and unacceptable comments from Donald Trump after the US president claimed to have saved Iran's Ayatollah Ali Khamenei from an ugly and ignominious death. The foreign minister's condemnation on Saturday came after Trump said on his Truth Social platform that he had saved the Iranian leader from assassination, accusing Khamenei of ingratitude. Well, the Republican-led U.S. Senate rejected a Democratic-led bid on Friday to block President Donald Trump from using further military force against Iran, hours after the president said he would consider more bombing. The Senate vote was 53-47 against a war powers resolution that would have required congressional approval for more hostilities against Iran. Well, under U.S. law, Senate war powers resolutions are privileged, meaning that the chamber had to promptly consider and vote on the measure, which Senator Tim Kaine introduced this month. And U.S. President Donald Trump voiced optimism about a new ceasefire in Gaza as criticism grew over mounting civilian deaths at Israeli-backed food distribution centers in the territory.
Often asked, and I think it's close. I just spoke with some of the people involved. It's a terrible situation that's going Gaza, he's asking about. And we think within the next week we're going to get a ceasefire. And we're supplying, as you know, a lot of money and a lot of food to that area because we have to, I mean, you have to. We're, in theory, not involved in it, but we're involved because people are dying.
Well, the United States brokered a ceasefire in the devastating conflict in the waning days of former President Joe Biden's administration with support from Trump's incoming team. Israel broke the ceasefire in March, launching new devastating attacks on Hamas, which attacked Israel on October 7, 2023. Also, the U.S. Supreme Court handed President Donald Trump a major victory on Friday in a case involving birthright citizenship. Supreme Court curbed lone judges from blocking the Republicans' raft of controversial policies. The court said individual district judges had likely exceeded their powers by issuing nationwide injunctions, which have also blocked a string of Trump's hardline policies on immigration, diversity, and firing federal employees. The 6-3 ruling stemmed from Trump's bid to end birthright citizenship. It changed the power balance between the federal judiciary and presidents. Trump directed federal agencies to refuse to recognize the citizenship of U.S.-born children who do not have at least one parent who is an American citizen or lawful permanent resident, also known as a green card holder. The ruling also did not address the legality of the policy, part of Trump's hardline approach towards immigration. Trump called the ruling a monumental victory for the Constitution, the separation of powers, and the rule of law.
Well, this was a big one, wasn't it? This was a big decision, an amazing decision, one that we're very happy about. This morning, the Supreme Court has delivered a monumental victory for the Constitution, the separation of powers, and the rule of law in striking down the excessive use of nationwide injunctions to interfere with the normal functioning of the executive branch. The Supreme Court has stopped the presidency itself. That's what they've done. And really, it's been an amazing period of time, this last hour.
Well, immigration lawyer and scholar Charles Cox said this ruling gives the president an enormous amount of power to basically rewrite federal law.
Well, this gives the president an enormous amount of power to basically rewrite federal law. That's what this executive order does. It tries to rewrite federal law, and the ability of citizens to stop that from happening. There's been a lot of movement towards the unitary executive theory over the last 40 years or so, and this seems to be the capstone, basically saying the courts don't have the power to stop the executive branch from carrying out whatever the executive branch wants to carry out. Some would say it speaks of dictatorship authority. We'll see what happens over the course of the next several weeks, really. We'll learn very quickly how the Trump administration is going to interpret this.
Well, Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo have signed a U.S.-brokered peace agreement aimed at ending the fighting in eastern Congo that has killed thousands and displaced hundreds of thousands. At a ceremony with the U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio in Washington, the two African countries' foreign ministers signed the agreement pledging to implement a 2024 deal that would see Rwandan troops withdraw from eastern Congo within 90 days. The conflict in eastern Congo has been fueled by the presence of Rwandan troops supporting the M23 rebels who seized key cities and mining areas earlier this year.
These are not just words on paper. They must now be translated into action with justice, accountability, and political will. This peace agreement is the starting point, not the end goal.
With the continued support of the United States and other partners, we believe that a turning point has been reached. Rwanda stands ready to work with the DRC to deliver on our joint commitments.
We think sometimes about peace. It's not just about ending wars. It's not just about saving lives. It's about allowing people to live. We're grateful to have played the role we've played. We acknowledge and recognize there's still more work to be done. But we thank you all very much for being a part of this historic and important day.
Whereas U.S. President Donald Trump hailed Rwanda and Congo foreign ministers at the Oval Office after the signing of a peace deal that would put an end to the 30-year-old conflict between the two countries.
So we're here today to celebrate a glorious triumph, and that's what it is, for the cause of peace. And this is a long time waiting the signing of a historic peace agreement between the Democratic Republic of the Congo and the Republic of Rwanda.
Well, as the agreement marks a significant breakthrough in talks between both the African countries, the deal also aims to attract billions of dollars of Western investment to a region rich in tantalum, gold, cobalt, copper, lithium and other minerals. President Donald Trump said that the United States will get a lot of mineral rights from Congo under the agreement.
We're getting for the United States a lot of the mineral rights from the Congo as part of it. They're so honored to be here. They never thought they'd be coming to, look, this is a very tough part of the world. They never thought, they were just telling me, they never thought they'd ever be coming to the White House, and they're so honored. And so we're going to give them a great big reception, but that's after many years of fighting. It's a great thing. That's at 3 o'clock, I believe.
Meanwhile, the global leaders also hailed the U.S. brokered deal between Rwanda and Congo, calling the agreement as a historic step forward. French President Emmanuel Macron took to X and said, I quote, "The peace agreement between the DRC and Rwanda with the support of the United States is a historic step forward after decades of suffering. To the Congolese and Rwandans, France sends a message of hope," unquote. Well, following the historic U.S. brokered peace agreement between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo, residents of Bukavu who reside near the conflict zone are calling for real change. Though the deal pledges a Rwandan troop withdrawal from eastern Congo within 90 days, many locals say fear still rules daily life, with gunfire at night and insecurity keeping people indoors. The deal signed in Washington by both countries' foreign ministers has raised hopes globally, but for communities like Bukavu, security concerns still prevail. "We want peace, not just promises," one resident said. The road to lasting calm remains fragile. Well, U.S. President Donald Trump also described Canada as a difficult partner for years. He announced on Friday the immediate end of trade talks in response to Canada's digital services tax on U.S. tech companies, calling it a direct and blatant attack on the United States.
So Canada put a charge on some of our companies, and Canada's been a very difficult country to deal with over the years. You know, we hear Canada, we have a great relationship with the people of Canada, but it's been very difficult. And they put a charge, and they were a little bit early, we found out about it. So, and we have all the cards. We have every single one. We don't want to do anything bad, but they have, economically, we have such power over Canada. I'd rather not use it, but they did something with our tech companies today, trying to copy Europe. You know, they copied Europe. It's not going to work out well for Europe either. And it's not going to work out well for Canada. They were foolish to do it. And so I said, we're going to stop all negotiations with Canada right now until they straighten out their act.
Well, U.S. President Donald Trump on Friday said he will not halt trade talks with the European Union despite recently ending negotiations with Canada over its tax on U.S. tech companies. Speaking from the Oval Office, Trump called the EU talks tough but said they would continue. The July 9th deadline for a tariff deal with the EU is approaching.
Well, they've been very tough. The European Union was formed in order to take advantage of the United States on trade. That was why they were formed. And they're nasty. They're very nasty. We have a good relationship. I'm dealing with Ursula right now and the group. But it's a very tough situation. They have been unbelievably bad to us. If you look at past precedents, they've treated them very badly. They're being very nice to me because I get it. I know the system. And we have the cards. We have the cards far more than they do.
Well, U.S. President Donald Trump criticized the Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell on Friday, saying he would like him to resign. He called Powell stupid and blamed him for keeping interest rates higher than he wants, saying rates should be at 1%.
Everybody says it, not only them. We have the hottest country in the world right now. The only thing is we have a Fed chairman that is, he doesn't get it. And you could have substantially lower. Like if we cut him 2 points, would save more than 600, think of it, more than $600 billion just because you cut. But you can't go out to the market and say, well, we have a guy that's got us at 4% or 4.5%, and we want to pay 2% or 1%. I think we should be paying 1% right now. And we're paying more because we have a guy who's, suffers from, I think, Trump derangement syndrome, if you want to know the truth. But he's not good for our country.
Well, U.S. President Donald Trump said on Friday that he expects to get the conflict solved with North Korea. Speaking from the Oval Office, he described his relationship with Kim Jong-un as really great and expressed confidence that any potential conflict would be resolved without involving the United States.
Well, if there is a conflict, I get along with him very, very well, and we'll get the conflict solved with North Korea. I've had a good relationship with Kim Jong-un, and I've gotten along with him really great, so we'll see what happens. But somebody saying there's a potential conflict, I think we'll work it out if there is. It wouldn't involve us, but again, we're very far away from a lot of these places that we're solving problems with.
Well, Lithuania has officially informed the United Nations of its withdrawal from the international treaty banning anti-personnel landmines. The move, shared by the country's foreign minister on June 27th, comes amid growing fears over Russian aggression. The decision, which takes effect in 6 months, follows similar steps by Latvia, Estonia, Finland and Poland, all NATO and EU members bordering Russia. Lithuania says it remains committed to civilian safety and international law, but must be ready to defend its people and territory with all available means as regional tensions escalate. And Sean Diddy Combs, a defense lawyer, urged a jury on Friday to find the former hip-hop mogul not guilty in his sex trafficking trial, saying prosecutors are trying to criminalize his unusual sexual preferences. During the first day of closing arguments on Thursday, a U.S. prosecutor told jurors Combs used violence and fear to lead a criminal enterprise that helped him subject 2 of his former girlfriends to sex trafficking. The jury saw hotel surveillance footage of Combs beating one of the women in her hallway and heard Combs' employees describe setting up hotel rooms and buying drugs for the performances. Jurors are expected to start deliberations either late on Friday or on Monday. To convict Combs, they must vote unanimously. And still to come in this edition of DD India Live. Jaishankar speaks with Iranian counterpart amid regional tensions, thanks Iran for helping evacuate Indian nationals. ICC introduces revised power play rules for shortened T20 matches starting July. And we'll show you wedding photos of Sanchez and Bezos' multi-day Venice celebration dazzled with star power and billion-dollar impact.
Can the US launch a bombing campaign against Iran? The Philippines vessel suffered structural damage. The saga of child sexual abuse is the United States China's debt trap strategy. Truth is stranger than fiction. But sometimes hard to uncover. Trust us to tell the truth, unadulterated and pure, of every story that matters to you.
Exactly what save your country.
You read between the lines, cut the clutter, and connect the dots to get you the full picture. Watch Connecting the Dots at these times.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India Live. I'm Vipakshi Khurana. Moving on, India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar on Thursday held a telephonic conversation with Iran's Foreign Minister Sayed Abbas Araghchi to discuss the ongoing regional developments amid ongoing tensions. Sharing on a social media post X, Jaishankar wrote, and I quote, "Spoke to FM Sayed Abbas Araghchi of Iran, appreciate his sharing Iran's perspective and thinking in the current complex situation. Thanked him for facilitating the safe evacuation of Indian nationals," unquote. During the conversation, Jaishankar also expressed gratitude for Iran's assistance in facilitating the safe evacuation of Indian nationals. And moving on, mountaineers Sauraj Jingan and Simar Patham, who scaled the Mount Everest in the 2018, launched their book, What's Your Everest, in New Delhi on Friday. A gripping tale of courage, failure, and finally triumph on the world's tallest peak. The duo, who left corporate jobs to chase their mountaineering dreams, shared how their multiple failed attempts only strengthened their resolve. The book urges readers to find and conquer their own Everest, whatever shape it may take in life.
I've had a privileged childhood, so to say, thanks to my parents here, but things did come simply when we wanted them, but Everest did not the first time. And you know that feeling of instant gratification, it took us a long time. It costed us a lot in every aspect of life to get to the top of this mountain.
It started making a lot of sense, and it became not just an account of our adventure, but also trying to see how vulnerable can we be and express the emotions behind feeling over and over again, and seeing whether we were brave enough to put that out there.
And on to some business news now. The International Monetary Fund said on Wednesday that it will disburse to Jordan about $134 million from its extended fund facility and approved a separate $700 million resilience and sustainability facility program for the country. The IMF said in a statement that it has completed the third review of the arrangement under the extended fund facility for Jordan, giving it immediate access to $134 million. There was no immediate disbursement under the new resilience and sustainability facility. And Warren Buffett donated on Friday another $6 billion of Berkshire Hathaway stock to the Gates Foundation and 4 family charities since his biggest annual donation. The donation of about 12.36 million Berkshire Class B shares boosted Buffett's overall giving to the charities to well over $60 billion. Warren Buffett still owns 13.8% of Berkshire stock and does not intend to sell any shares. His $152 billion net worth prior to Friday's donations made him the world's 5th richest person. In a statement, Buffett maintained he now 94. Buffett began giving away his fortune in 2006. He changed his will last year, designating 99.5% of his remaining fortune after his death to a charitable trust overseen by his children. Buffett said last June that donations to the Gates Foundation would end when he dies. And on to some sports news. Indian women's cricket team is set to face England in the first T20 international of the 5-match series on Saturday. India will be keen to internalize the conditions and character of venues in England ahead of next year's World Cup. The ICC showpiece is almost a year away, but the series is a perfect stepping stone after India's disappointing group stage exit in the last edition. Apart from the return of explosive opener Shefali Verma, India's added some new names such as Kranti Gaud, Sri Charani and Sayali Satkare to its squad. And the International Cricket Council announced new power play rules for shortened T20 matches with a clearly defined number of overs and fielding restrictions. As per the new rules, effective from July, a reduced game of 8 overs in an innings would have 2.2 overs of power play with only 2 fielders outside the 30-yard circle. For every over, 2 balls of power play will be counted. For instance, for a 5-over innings, 1.3 overs will be of power play, whereas a 6-over innings will have 1.5 overs of power play. And Carlos Alcaraz will start his Wimbledon defence against Fabio Fognini, while world number 1 Jannik Sinner faces a potential clash against Novak Djokovic following Friday's draw. Spain's Alcaraz, who has beaten Djokovic in the past 2 finals, arrives at the All-England club on a career-best 18-match winning streak. He's aiming to become just the 5th man to win at least 3 straight Wimbledon titles in the Open era. On the women's side, reigning champion Barbora Krejcikova begins her campaign against 2025 breakout star Alexandra Ayala on centre court. Well, that's all we have for you in this bulletin, but we'll leave you with this story from Venice, Italy, where Lauren Sanchez shared a photo of her wedding to Amazon founder Jeff Bezos. The couple welcomed hundreds of VIP guests for a multi-day celebration, reportedly costing over 40 million euros. Right, that's all for this edition of Diddy India Live. But let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the Diddy India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. Well, we'll be back with more news as it breaks here on Diddy India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching Diddy India Live.